Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Canby Coaster almost 400, almost 40,000 subscriber live stream. As usual, let me know if you can hear me in the chat. I suspect you should be able to, um, but I'll start just writing down. As usual, I'll try to answer as many as I'm able, as many questions as I'm able to in the next hour. It could be about coasters, non-coasters. I'll try my best to get to them. So see some already in the chat. Mavericks Heartline roll. Yeah, I crashed El Toro Ryan's video. They just happened to be at Hershey Park the day I was in the area for work, so hung out with them on their preview night and got some really wild rides in Wildcats Revenge that night. Um, Slim Fury tips for a Japan coaster trip. You're going in 2025. The Japan train rail pass is your friend. Trains are the most efficient way to get around that country. Um, Hello, Mike Met. Hello, Mason, that weird guy. Hello, Ryan Reacts. Hello, Kat Ashworth. Hello, Brian Barbara. Hello, Theme Park Fan. Hello, Coasters and Airplanes. Hello, Mr. Mako, Florida. Mavericks Heartline Roll. Did you hear about the accident in Waldemere? I have not seen any videos. I heard there was an accident on the chair swing. It sounds like the e-stop might have been hit and the swings behaved a little weirdly. From what I understand with swing rides, that's a difficult one when it comes to the e-stop because if you think about a swing, though, they can rock back and forth. So if you cut all power to the ride, the swings can still move and might collide. Um, I'm sure there'll be an investigation. Hopefully, something like that doesn't happen again. Uh, the Wister Mister favorite Christmas movie. I'm gonna go with National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. That one's pretty funny and it's a classic. Hello, Coast and the Planet. Hello, Brandon Michael. Hello, Coaster Kev. Alan Trotter, can you get Maurice Pier, Playlands Castaway Cove, and Casino Pier done on one Saturday? I have done that before. If you're purely into credit running, you can. I would recommend starting at Casino Pier because that one's up north and you don't need too much time there. Playlands Castaway Cove, again, it's pay per ride, so you can do that park pretty quickly. And then give yourself the most time, Maurice, especially because some of those piers open later in the day, so it makes sense to head there at the end. Coaster Vision's top 3 drop towers. Any version of Tower of Terror Guardians mission breakout. Coaster Cult, is Lightning Rod still your favorite coaster? Yes, but I have not ridden it this year yet. Brian Barbara. Have you been on Iron Menace? Yes, I have a review on it. It's probably one of my least favorite dive coasters, but it is a good ride for Dorney. I like the pacing on it. Just some of the inversions didn't quite do it for me as I expected. Airtime Cinema, thoughts on Quantum Accelerator? Will you be at Professor Screamore's? Oops, sorry, that just scrolled. Will you be Professor Screamore's test rider? Oh, I'm definitely gonna ride that as soon as I can. Hopefully, it opens by summer next year. Just I'm a little skeptical after some of the recent Six Flags projects that have been delayed a bit. Me 28, Me 23. What about Oaks Park? I've been there. It's a fun little park. Not one I'd go on my way for, but if I'm in Portland, I'll absolutely visit it. Hello, Mason, that weird guy. You used to pronounce my name as Canobie instead of Canobie. Yeah, I know if you're not local to the area and been to the park, it is kind of a weird pronunciation. Mr. Mako, Florida. Yeah, I'll record anything interesting, whether it be roller coasters or flat rides. Mike Matt, what is your next planned park visit? Possibly Six Flags New England. I mean, I've tried to get there before the end of summer again. Hello, Coaster Boss. Uh, Nuggets the doggy. The airtime on the back of the drop of Fire Runner will be insane. I fully expect it to be. I mean, those Raptors always have amazing drops, and Stun Pilot's drop was amazing with the 2 extra cars, so this one should be even better. The Wister Mister, favorite fast food. I'm gonna go with a local chain, Baja's. It's sort of like Chipotle, but I think their meat tastes better. So I'll go with that. Uh, Arlo Productions thought prediction on Six Flags Great America's next coaster. I assume you mean after Wrath of Rakshasa. I will guess an RMC Raptor, but it could be anything. Brandon Michael, I have reviewed Silver Dollar City. Ryan reacts, is DreamWorks still your favorite water park in the US? Um, that one's up there. I also really like Mountain Creek Water Park and Splish Splash, and it's nice how all three of those are pretty close to each other. Uh, Premier Thrills, what are your thoughts on the situation with Dinoconda? I haven't been following that. If you can leave another comment, let me know what exactly the situation is. I can comment, but I haven't been paying much attention to that ride. Ezra Brogland 2024. What's better, Iron Gwazi or Wildcat's Revenge? I prefer Iron Gwazi. The drop is amazing, and I just think that ride does a bit better in the airtime department. Kat Ashworth. I'm excited to finally get on Hyperia in the next couple weeks. Despite how short it is, I'm ridiculously excited. Yeah, that ride looks amazing. I mean, that drop looks epic with the twist and the vertical angle, and it looks to really move through the layout at a good clip. Keystone coasters. I have had Bojangles, and I'm not a big fan of them. Alan Trotter. I went to Europa, and I love Voltron. Did it crack your top 10? It's a borderline top 10 steel coaster for me. I haven't fully placed it yet. I don't quite think it'll be a top 10 overall coaster for me when you add in the wood coasters, but it is fairly close, I think. Maverick's Heartline Roll. Do you think Top Thrill 2 is down until 2025? Unfortunately, at this rate, I think it might be. It's unfortunate that that ride, operated for what, 4 days this year? Because, Cedar Point advertised it a lot. It's a high profile ride, and everyone who rode it loved it. But hopefully it reopens next year and can, operate for most of the season. Uh, Coasters and airplanes. What's your favorite airline? You like United Airlines. I don't fly them too often. There's not a ton of flights out of Boston for them. JetBlue is probably my favorite one, but really for me, it needs to be reasonably priced and efficient. Uh, t- t- Flighting engineer. Do you do you put drop ride? Do you drop rides in your ranks if they get worse, or do you base it off of the best version of the ride? So the way I rank coasters is I have an Excel spreadsheet, and basically I put a separate year in for each year of my ranking. So, for example, Lightning Rod was my top coaster in 2021. That's never going to change. It was the best coaster I rode that year, and I just add a new column every year to adjust my rankings. Um, so to answer the question, I will drop a ride if it changes and the old experience cannot be had again. So, for example, in the case of Lightning Rod, if removing the launch significantly changes the ride, I'll move it down. But if I go to, say, Six Flags New England in the spring and I ride Superman the ride, Superman does not run the best in the cooler weather. It runs its best in summer. I'm still going to rank it off the summer rides because you can still get those. Uh, Maliki, do you prefer Velocicoaster or Steel Vengeance? Definitely Steel Vengeance. Arrowland, have you ridden Hyperia? Unfortunately, no, it was closed when I was at Thorpe Park. Cameron Hall, prediction on when King's Dominion can remove their next coaster. Um, I guess the part of it is what coaster do we think will be removed next from King's Dominion? I am not sure what their next coaster would be. Um, yeah, I'm not too sure on that one. Sorry. Mason, that weird guy. You're riding Iron Gwazi in the spring. How's it compare to Shockwave at over Texas? Um, I'd say the airtime's closer to the really, really good hills on New Texas Giant if you've been on that one. Just Iron Gwazi doesn't die out in the second half like New Texas Giant sort of does. Uh, Crystal Dawson, thoughts on Fire Runner, the RMC coming to Lost Island? I'm really excited they're getting another big coaster at that park. I'm just hoping it has good uptime, considering when I was there, their two major coasters were down most of the day. Coaster Boss. Professor Screamore's Sidewinder at Six Flags America was so rough that my phone auto dialed 911 in my pocket. So I've heard that some of the new phone settings can do that even on a smooth ride. That happened to me on one of the Raptors before, so I just had to adjust some settings and it hasn't happened again. Coaster Visions. When are you thinking about going to China? Whenever work sends me there, just because, um, it's an expensive flight and they'll be able to help me, get over there and get acclimated to the country. Brandon Michael, have you ridden Fire in the Hole at Silver Dollar City? Yes to the old version, no to the new version. Mr. Mako, Florida, favorite fair flat ride. This one's over in Germany, as are pretty much all my favorite flats. I'm gonna go with Skater. It's a crazy top scan of post a POV of that ride, and it is ridiculously fast and forceful. Keystone Coasters, favorite movie. Raiders of the Lost Ark or Last Crusade. I love those two Indiana Jones movies. Cedar Kev. Yeah, it was great to see you at Hershey Park and meet you. Yeah, I had a great time that night. CEC Crystal Lake. How was your visit to Hershey with El Toro, Ryan? Yeah, it was great running into the Coaster Idiots for a few hours, especially because I had met some of them before. Like, I'd met Ryan, I've met Nate, but I hadn't met people like Mike before, so it was good to, finally meet them in person. Arrowland. What is stronger, the Camelback and Steel? Yeah, the Camelback and Superman, or the Outer Bank and Steel Vengeance? Um, I prefer the Outer Bank and Steel Vengeance, but I think the airtime might be a stronger strength than Superman. It's just not quite as sustained as the Outer Bank on Steel Vengeance. Dank Peasy, what do you think of these new Mattel parks? What other cities besides Phoenix and KC could benefit from one? I'm excited to see more theme parks, especially indoor ones, given how, weather isn't always perfect. I would love to see one in Seattle, given how that metro area deserves a better park than Wild Waves, and, it rains a ton over there. Um, Mason, that weird guy. It's a very creative idea for over Texas to run Mr. Freeze forwards and backwards. Yeah, I like how they're giving people a choice whether which way they want to experience it. Hey, Fat, what parks do you think will be heavily affected by the merger? It's a little tough to see right now, but based off of really quick things, my guess is parks that need aesthetic improvements, Cedar Fair will prioritize those. So as we're seeing with Six Flags Over Georgia, they're repainting Goliath, which really needed it. Um, Brandon Michael, who remembers Thunderloop, Schwarzkopf looping star from Slughorn? I remember they had a plaque for it, I believe, in the station for Gold Rush. Never rode it there, but I have ridden that clone elsewhere. Maverick's Heartline roll. Sure, I'll give a quick shout out to Shay Cass. Sorry you couldn't make the stream. Bodie Pierce, the Funplex Myrtle Beach will not be reopening next year. I hadn't heard that. Are they not getting high attendance, or what's the reason behind it? Arrowland. I rode Hyperion and got no airtime. That's surprising. I've heard it has very good airtime. Nuggets the doggy. Is Six Flags St. Louis getting anything in 2025? Yes, but I think it's going to be the frisbee for this year, probably getting postponed till next year. So I don't know if you count that or not, but considering it hasn't opened yet, I foresee that being pushed to next year, like the coasters. Um, Coasting the Planet. Which non-coaster Epic Universe ride are you most excited for? I'm gonna go with the Ministry of Magic Dark Ride just because I'm a big Harry Potter fan. But that Monsters Dark Ride looks amazing too. Triple Cripple, Wicked Cyclone, or Airy Force One? Definitely Airy Force. Mason, that weird guy. Iron Rattler versus Iron Gwazi versus Steel Vengeance. Who wins? I ranked those in the reverse order of how they were said. Hello, Caleb. Too tough. Brian Barber. My favorite coaster is Phoenix at Knobles. Yeah, that's an amazing ride. The airtime's really wild. Aeroland. I rode Zadra and it was really good, and it was godly. Yeah, Zadra has amazing pacing, and I love the elements on that ride. NASCAR plus music equals life. If you're a new enthusiast that only has ridden coasters at Carowinds and Dollywood, what would be the best next step to get more credits? I'd recommend going to Six Flags Over Georgia. It's a reasonable drive from there, and they have a really good coaster lineup. Heath the King 25. Despite being a clone, do you think Fire Runner will have a big impact on Lost Island? I hope so because the water park gets good crowds, and the theme park's in a similar location, and it has a lot of potential. I just hope more people go so that way they can recoup their investment. Ryan reacts. I recently visited Six Flags New England, and I liked my top three in order as Wicked Cyclone, Superman, and Batman. Do you have different? Do you have a different option, or would you change the order? Superman's my favorite, followed by Wicked Cyclone. My third favorite there is usually either Harley Quinn or New England Sky Screamer. Brandon Michael, remember Wild Kitty from Frontier City? I was never there when I was there, but I remember seeing it on RCDB. Hello, Bay Area Fanner 24. Caleb Too Tough. When do you think they'll start building Quantum Accelerator? I hope they start soon, considering New England typically has a harsh winter, although the past 2 years haven't been too bad. Um, the Wister Mister. Sorry. Premier Thrills. Allegedly, a young woman got seriously injured after riding the front row of Dinoconda. That's really sad to hear. Was it like a mechanical issue or just someone came back to the station unresponsive? Either way, that's not good, and hopefully they can figure out what happened so it doesn't happen again. Brandon Michael, is Six Flags Discovery Kingdom smaller than Frontier City? Discovery Kingdom is bigger, especially if you count the zoo area. Ezra Broglin 2024. Do you think we are getting RMC Boss at Six Flags St. Louis anytime soon? I imagine that may happen someday. I also haven't been following Boss too much the past 3 years. If they've started putting new wood track on it, that might mean that that project isn't happening anytime soon. Um, but we'll see what happens. Um, Caleb Too Tough. Will Quantum Accelerator be better than Batman Six Flags New England? It very well could be. Um, just because those straddle coasters can be really nice family thrill coasters. Coaster Visions. What do you think the next coaster to get RMC'd is? Um, that's a tough one because I'm trying to think what wood coasters out there are really wretched. My hope is Bandit at Movie Park Germany because that's not a very good wood coaster, and that park needs a true signature standout coaster. Um, Another good candidate would be I like the ride, and I think it's still popular, but Loop Garou at Wallaby, Belgium, because Untamed is really popular, and the same chain did the same thing to Robin Hood, which is another Vekoma Woody. Um, Ryan F. I took a bucket list trip to Lake Compounce in Six Flags New England. Boulder Dash is awesome and intense. I want Boulder to get more Titan. What do you think? I want the ride to run fast and smooth, whatever means needed. So, if they want to retrack with wood, Titan track, I don't care as long as it rides, similarly awesome. Sorry, I lost my spot in the chat. Trying to figure out where that is. Um, Aeroland. There are three wood coasters in Spain that would benefit from being RMC'd. Yeah, I'd love that one Terra Mythica to be RMC'd. Magnus Colossus looks to have a ton of potential at that location. Um, Stampede is another one that would benefit from it, considering how rough that ride is. Uh, what's the third one? Are you counting Stampede as two tracks? Uh, Quipto, Dragon Challenge, red or blue side. I preferred the blue side just because of the zero G roll, but I know most people preferred red. Crystal Dawson, do you think Iowa is underrated when it comes to coasters? I think the state has a nice trio of parks. Arnold's Park has a lot of old rides you can't find elsewhere. Adventureland, has a solid lineup and monsters amazing. And Lost Island is a genuine theme park, which contrasts with the other two that are purely amusement parks. Flighting engineered. What are your favorite other coaster YouTubers? One I like is El Toro Ryan. Good guy and makes great videos. Yeah, I look for specific content I like reviews and ranking videos. Um, Brandon Michael, do you know about the coaster from Final Destination 3 called Corkscrew at Peony Playland? Never rode it, but it was standing but not operating the time I was there. I know Playland is used in a lot of movies and TV shows. Like The Flash used that park a few times as well. Um, Alex the Grimlock, was your favorite Schwarzkopf coaster? Chimera when was running at La Feria. That ride was an absolute powerhouse there. Palozzo Gaming and Sirens. Do you think that Steam and Demon at Great Escape will be replaced in the next few years? So I feel like they may replace that as their next coaster. I just don't know when that'll happen considering they just got Bobcat. I want them to keep that ride going as long as possible rather than just ripping it out and it sits idle for a while. Even though it's not the best ride, it is a coaster that does draw people over there. Maliki, have you met Taylor and Sarah from Coaster Studios? I have not. I've been at the park the same day they have, like at Hollywood Nights, but didn't run into them. Alan Trotter, if you ran Kings Island and money was no option, what would you put in the old Vortex plot of land? A mock extreme spinner. I want a another big one in the U.S. Similar to Ride to Happiness. Brandon Michael, favorite Vekoma roller coaster. Um, Fly at Phantasialand. I love how it interacts with Rookberg, and it's just such a cool layout. Nuggets the doggy. Why don't you make fun of the GP? That's because they're a majority of park goers, and without them, we wouldn't get the additions we have at the parks. And just because they don't know coasters doesn't mean we should make fun of them. I mean, there are people who don't know sports. It's not right to needlessly make fun of them. Coasters and airplanes. Thoughts on Magic Springs X Coaster? It's in your top 25. I don't have it nearly that high, but it is a fun coaster. Very weird getting that hang time on the inverted lift hill. Arrowland. Thoughts on Christopher Nolan? I really like his movies. I wish the audio mixing was a little better in some of them, especially like Tenet. But I do like how he frames the stories. Ryan reacts. Any rides that scare you? Um, like Sky Coasters, especially the one at Fun Spot Kissimmee, definitely still scares me. Um, Lighting engineered. Have you been to Six Flags Magic Mountain this summer? I have not been this summer. I typically visit that park in like the winter when the parks around me are closed. Not to mention, I like to avoid SoCal when it's super hot out. It's a very comfortable temperature there winter. Wilcoxon, do you think Quantum Accelerator opens in 2025? I sure hope so. I mean, the plot's already clear, so I'd like to think they will, but I'm just a little skeptical after some of the other Six Flags editions. Though I will say Six Flags New England is usually good about having their stuff open, usually around Memorial Day. Um, oh, that just flickered weirdly for me. Hopefully, that's not a sign of things to come. Um, Red Dragon 84. Are you excited for this year's Hollywood Horror Nights? Um, I don't know if I'll go this year, but I'm always excited to see what they put there because they make really nice houses. Hey Siri, I went to Six Flags New England. Wicked Cyclone was closed, but Superman was open. That's really unfortunate. Wicked Cyclone was closed. Usually that's fairly reliable. It'll break down, 10, 15 minutes here and there, but usually it's not closed all day. Alan Trotter, besides Hyperia, was your biggest bucket list coaster you've yet to ride in Europe? I'm going to go with the Hyper Coaster at Land of Legends just because, I want to ride more mock hypers after DC Rivals. Maverick's Heartline Roll. Do you think Beast 2.0 is real, or is a load of BS that Kings Island is using to troll enthusiasts? Um, I mean, they took time to put in a survey, so I think there's some thought about doing that. I mean, if you look at all the old wood coasters, not all of them, there were several wood coasters back in like 1920s and 1930s that were extended. I mean, look at Kennywood doing that with Pippin to Thunderbolt. Thunderhawk at Dorney did that. That like figure eight turnaround section never used to be there. Um, so it's not unheard of to extend a wood coaster, just hasn't been done in a long time. Uh, Quipto, do you prefer the drop in Fury 325 or Orion? They feel very similar to me, so I don't have a major preference. Hello, Jaden, and happy belated birthday. Ian ML Cureless. Not a coaster related question, but what kind of music do you like and what are your favorite artists? So those kind of overlap. I love like the roller coaster and amusement area music just because it, brings back good memories of the parks. Alex Wilcoxon, thoughts on SeaWorld San Diego? I think it's the prettiest of the parks, with the SeaWorld name. And the fact that they've had coasters in recent years makes that park quite a bit better. So I really like what they've done with that park, and it's definitely a park I like visiting when I'm in SoCal. Twinbo, what region do you think needs a new park most? I said it earlier, but Seattle. I mean, that's a big metro area, and Wild Waves isn't the best park. But the other one would be Houston because I lost Astroworld, and Kima Boardwalk's fun, and Galveston Pleasure Pier is a nice little park, but they have the market to support a big park and the weather too. Shay Delante, have you been on Giant Dipper at Belmont Park since the track work? Not sure when the track work was done, but I last rode it last spring and it was pretty shaky. When I say last spring, I mean spring 2023. Plating engineered. Speaking of Twisted Colossus, how much of the non-dueling do you think is the park operations fault, versus how much do you think it was RMC's fault for making it so hard to duel? So when I've been there, they actually do a decent job of getting a half duel. The biggest problem is they only run two trains, which basically means you can only get one half duel at best. Um, I wish it would stop on the lift hill, or stop on a brake run at the bottom, so that way you had a guaranteed duel, much like with West Coast Racers. And maybe they'll reprogram that someday, but I'm just not sure if it will happen. Coasting the planet, favorite dispatch sequence. Oh, that's a tough one. Um, I really like Time Traveler with the gears above the station and the music as it goes out with the chimes. Michigan coasters and more. Any plans to go to Six Flags Qiddiya? I'm gonna wait for other people to go over there and just see how it goes. We don't know how reliable Falcon's flight will be, and I also just want to see how it is visiting that country from someone else. Jaden, favorite coaster at Hershey Park. After this past trip, Wildcat's Revenge. Cat 1234. I find it baffling how Six Flags Great Adventure did not explain why Flash was delayed to 2025, while Over Georgia's park president was completely honest why Georgia Surfer was delayed to 2025. Um, I'm not sure why they didn't give him a bigger explanation. I think they just want to say it's going to 2025 because pass sales started for next year. It's unfortunate that they delay it to try to get more pass sales, but SeaWorld did that with Iron Gwazi and Pantheon, and people were mad at the time, but it didn't have a long term impact in the park, and I'm sure more people bought passes to try to finally get on those rides. Um, Roller Coaster. Since it has been a few years since you rode it, where do you rank Wild Chain, and what do you think of Helios? Is Helios the striker coaster going there? If so, I haven't seen what the layout looks like, so I can't say if it'll be better than Wild Train or not. But Wild Train's a borderline top 100 coaster for me. It has some really wild airtime despite the size. Aeroland. Zadra did move up a bit after my recent rides on it. Coaster Filmer. You're going on the world's tallest sky coaster for your birthday, which is this Saturday. Have fun because I absolutely love that sky coaster. It's an absolute rush. Hey Siri, what ride do you want burnt down because it's so bad? That's a tough one because the worst coaster I've been on is Blue Tornado at Gardaland, but that could be fixed with new trains. Coaster Express is another really bad coaster, but that layout has potential to be an RMC, so I don't want it burned to the ground. I'll say a really bad kiddie coaster like range that does absolutely nothing. It's, painful, small, and not really a good ride. Maliki, you roll Boulder Dash at Lake Compounds and you think the coaster should be higher on our bucket list because of the amazing airtime, but it's not talked about that much. So I live in New England, so Boulder Dash, has quite the reputation in a good way. It's an amazing ride, especially at night. Um, Hello, real life coasters. Twin Bow, what ride do you think needs improved capacity the most? Two candidates that come to mind are Iron Gwazi, specifically faster dispatches, and Ghost Rider at Knott's Berry Farm. They really need to reconfigure the loose articles on that ride to help the crew out. Coaster Boss, will you ever make a review of Hershey Park's old Wildcat? I may one day, because I have ridden that ride both with the PTC trains. That's when I thought it was better, and with the GCI trains. So it'll be a little tough one to do because that ride did change throughout the years, but maybe I'll go back and do it. Theme park fan, what do you think about cars replacing Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer Island? So I am gonna miss the aesthetic of looking over the river at Tom Sawyer Island, but realistically, I never went there that often. I think I went there once in my past 3 trips to Disney. Whereas going to Cars Land, that would be a must every visit. So I'm personally excited for the addition. I know some people wish it was elsewhere in the park, but I think that landscape could work with Frontierland, and I'm not too attached to Tom Sawyer Island. Uh, 1010 Chew. When do you think Hershey Park's new attraction will be announced? And do you think it'll be a scream and swing? So everyone I've heard is saying scream and swing. I mean, they could use another big flat ride, so that makes sense. Um, I imagine they'll announce it shortly when they want to do pass sales for next year. Um, Alan Trotter, Loop Guru just needs Titan track. Yeah, that'd be another option because I do like the layout in that ride. It has some really good airtime. Skyrush fanboy, you hope Palace Entertainment gets sold to a different corporation. So there are some things Palace does that I really like, other things I don't like. The biggest thing I don't like with Palace is that they are quick to close their parks in inclement weather. So I'm really hesitant to go to Lake Compounds any day I see rain because I know they're quick to close. Um, they never used to be that way. It's gotten worse and worse in recent years. Leather Cowboy Daddy MPHS. Did you ride Zip and Pippin before it was relocated? I did not go to Liberty Land, so no. Um, Bag of Clothes 73. If Lakeside in Denver opens by the end of the year, are you going to do a Colorado trip? Um, I don't. I would want to go to that place in summer for Waterworld, and I don't know how Lakeside runs outside of after Labor Day. Unfortunately, with Cyclone closed, that didn't happen this year. Hopefully, I get there next year. But my requirement for going is um, I want all those parks open. I want Cyclone open. And for a while, I was postponing it because I was waiting for Haunted Mine Drop to reopen. And now that it's what's it, Crystal Drop or Crystal Mine Plunge, I forget what they named it. Um, Basically, when Cyclone opens, I'm pretty sure I'll be going there. So hopefully, it happens. Insane coasters. Will there ever be anything more insane than Air Force One in terms of airtime? I could see RMC building another, wild airtime machine like that. So don't put it past them. Roller coaster. What is your favorite Gerstlauer bobsled? Um, I'd say Heisafar to Clawton has the best layout, but it might be Van Helsing's factory because of the theming and it has some wicked laterals. Maverick's Heartline roll. Can you pick any random coaster you hate and deliver the most vile roast ever? If you've seen my review of Range, that pretty much is a roast. Uh, Ducks fan 11. How many jobs do you have? Just one. Dank Peasy. Would Hoosier Hurricane be a good RMC candidate? I'd say so because the layout, it's fast but doesn't do too much as an awesome location. But I just don't know if that park would be able to afford one based off of their investments I've seen. Coaster Vision's best road trip for coaster credits. Um, I mean, the East Coast has a lot of good parks you can get to pretty quickly, so I'll say there. But it really depends what your goal is, whether it be theme parks, big roller coasters, what manufacturer. It's hard to say. Mr. Mako, Florida. Mako versus Goliath at Over Georgia. I think Mako has the better first half, and if it sustained that, it would be my favorite. But Goliath is the all around better ride. Um, Arrowland, you won the Batman Gotham City Escape running of the Bulls and got front row first train of the day. That's awesome because you can't necessarily guarantee where your seat is unless you're first in line. Um, yeah, when I was there, it didn't open with the park, so people ran for naught. But that must have been a good reward getting on it quickly. Brady, which Busch Gardens park do you prefer? I prefer Williamsburg for the aesthetic and theming. Caleb, too tough. Do you think El Toro is one of the scariest in the world? I could see that just because of how it's a big wood coaster. Doesn't really scare me anymore, but I love the ride still. Onyx, do you like the Mammoth or Tornado more? Um, if you're talking in Holiday World, Mammoth versus Zynga, I prefer Mammoth. Jaden, I have been on Skyrush this year. I published an updated review with my new thoughts. Unfortunately, it did go down a bit in my ranks. Objectively, I think the ride is better for a majority of people. The restraints are way more comfortable, but the higher seat sides do restrict your laterals, and the restraints are the lap bars are bulkier, so you don't get the same. You don't really have your butt lift up like quite like it used to. It's more pinned in place. Still has some amazing forces, but it did move down for me a bit. WRJ 518. Do you think Hades 360 would benefit from an RMC retracking? It would benefit from any form of retracking. Now, to Mount Olympus's credit, they retracked Zeus, I believe, in house, and they did a really good job, and that ride's smooth now. And I heard it used to be rough, so they have the ability to retract. They just really need to do it to Hades. Plating engineered. What defunct credit are you most happy you got on before it closed? Um, I'm gonna go with Dododonpa just because I don't think we'll ever see a launch like that again. Sabelle Karstens got a King's Dominion season pass. Would like to meet you. I should be there next year for Rapterra. I typically don't announce my trips in advance, just because I've always had the philosophy when you travel, you shouldn't openly say why you're away because someone could go to your house and try to break in. So that's why I typically post stuff after I get home. If you see me in a park, you're more than welcome to say hi though. Um, Donovan W. Favorite indoor coaster. I don't have my list right in front of me. I feel like it might have been Mindbender at Galaxyland, unless I'm forgetting one. But I'm just doing it off the top of my head. I might be forgetting one. Coaster Boss. I don't understand how Talon Zero G roll hardly has any negative Gs, while the Batman clone Zero G rolls have some. I think it's because Talons is so high off the ground it loses quite a bit of speed going into it. Um, Talking about Schwarzkopf, do you ever ride the 28 trailer Doppel looping when it was here in the US? I did not. Back in 2008, I was still in high school, so I didn't get to as many parks, just because I was busy with school and dependent on my parents. Um, Stephen Boshiers with Kid Flash over Georgia already closed. What do you think will replace it? I think they're still trying to fix that ride, though. I feel like it might be on its last straw given all the issues it's had. Coaster Filmer, you're going to Fun Spot Kissimmee. Which ride should you go on beside the coasters and go karts? Definitely there's, excuse me, definitely their Sky Coaster. They have the best one because of the height. Leo B, based on your 2024 re-rides, do you still have Ride to Happiness over Zadra in your rankings? I do not. Zadra moved up for me. Arrowland, have you seen Les Miserables? Sorry, I'm going to butcher the name. Les Mis. I've seen the film. I've seen a play at a school before. My issue is I have a problem hearing words when I hear songs. So with Les Mis, where a lot of the plot was in the lyrics, I missed a lot of the plot. So I got lost watching the film the first time. Just for reference, I didn't realize that Hugh Jackman was the guy at the beginning that lifted the mast. So I was completely lost for the rest of the film. Um, but I get why people like that movie though. Chris O'Grady, as an engineer, do you aspire to ever build your backyard coaster? Well, I'd love to have a backyard roller coaster. The time and effort it would take, plus I could see that angering my neighbors. I don't think it'll happen. Back row coasters. You're going to Quasi Lake Compounds at Six Flags New England. You have fun. Those look, those are fun little parks. Well, I say little, but New England's a good sized park, and Lake Compounds isn't small either. Jordan Lamb, are you going to make an analysis video for Alpenfury or Rapterra? Probably not, just because it's those have been announced for a little bit, and there've already been several out there. Brandon Michael, do you know Rob from Theme Park Review? Yeah, I went on a few theme park review trips several years ago, and he's a really nice guy in person, and he bends over backwards to make sure people on the trips have a good time. Quipto, do you think Lightning Raw is a worse ride in terms of ride experience only since the chain lift was installed? I have not ridden it this year, but I've heard people say it's running faster through the layout after the lift hill. Which, if that's the case, it still could be very well being a number one coaster. Um, I 305 or King Ka. I prefer Intimidator Project 305 more. Um, Crystal Dawson, what's your opinion on the Minnesota Vikings? Um, I don't think they're gonna have the best season this year. It's unfortunate JJ McCarthy got injured. Yeah, I don't see them making the playoffs this year. Coaster Boss, if you are curious about the kink in Skyrush's drop, I have seen photos that show a slightly misaligned rail. If that's the case, I'm guessing you mean it's on the drop, like halfway down. I'd have to look closely. I haven't seen that photo. Palozzo Gaming and Sirens, top three PTC coasters. So I've made a video ranking them. I might be forgetting some off the top of my head. My I know Phoenix is at the top unless I'm forgetting one. Um, yeah, that video would be the best answer. Nuggets the doggy. Thrilling versus scary. For me, thrilling is if you come off a ride with an adrenaline rush. I mean, being scary can do that, but it can also be just from being an intense experience. Maliki, when do you think a park will finally buy an RMC T Rex? I'm not sure, but I hope it happens just because I'd love to see more RMCs. Uh, Yoshi Wow LLL, Wicked Cyclone or Superman? I prefer Superman just because I prefer the more varied layout. Brandon Michael, just like Formula Rossa, are you going to wear goggles on Falcon's flight? I believe they said they're not required because of the windshields in the car. Um, so I don't think they're going to be required. Ryan reacts. If you're in Orlando, what would you recommend for coasters? Um, I think SeaWorld is probably the best overall park for coasters, but I'd say Islands of Adventure should be your top spot because of Velocicoaster and Hagrid's, and Hulk's really good too. Craze 6471 room tour. There will not be a room tour just because the way uh, the camera I have is very sensitive. So if I even wiggle the wire, this stream will end instantly. It'll cause an error. If you remember, I think last year I tried to move the camera to show my new kittens, and the stream went out immediately. Kent Soliday. I never rode the Schwarzkopf Thriller. British Columbia Rail Productions. Any plans for Thunderbolt at Peony Playland? No plans to get there this year. Maybe in the next year or two. It just depends when I'm back in that area for work. Hello, Jaden Herbert. Mega Heat. Do you find sustained float or a brief ejector more enjoyable? Um, it depends how strong the ejector is. But I'd say you know, in general, I'd say I prefer a super sustained floater moment over a brief ejector moment. But it depends on the ride and the restraints and everything. Skyrush fanboy, worst amusement chain, your opinion? Um, I'm gonna say Apex because I left Indiana Beach out to dry, and the parks I've been to under their ownership were not the best. Amazing Italian. If Six Flags Great Adventure was going to take on a major thrill ride, what do you think it would be? Um, the one that would make the most sense would be Green Lantern, just because of how a lot of those stand-ups have been converted to sit-downs over the years, and Green Lantern does not make sense to become a sit-down coaster of Medusa in that park. Whereas if you relocate Green Lantern again to another park and give it sit-down trains, it could be a signature ride somewhere like you know Darien Lake or something. Uh, Onyx, do you like Funtown Splashtown? Yes, I do. Maliki, if you had a choice to RMC Roar or Boss, what would you choose? I'd pick Boss because of how much potential the layout has. Plighting Engineered, top three B&M sit down loopers. I believe I made a video ranking the floorless coasters. And I threw the sit down ones in there as well. For me, again, I'm doing this off the top of my head. I might be forgetting one, but I'm pretty sure it goes Hulk, Dragon Con, and Wildfire, unless I'm missing one. Chris, what are your thoughts on the seemingly demise of Blackpool Pleasure Beach and your opinions on the rumored plans? When you say demise at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, are you referring to what's it, Grand Prix being taken out? I've seen a few things online floating about an Intamin gyro swing. If that's the case, that's an amazing addition, but I don't have anything concrete. Um, Sybil Karstens, come to Six Flags America this Thursday, Canopie. I cannot. I'll be at work. Mr. Too Funny, best park in New Hampshire in your opinion? Canopy Lake Park if you're an adult. Storyland if you have kids or love theming. Cali Coasters, what do you think is the best park in California? Disneyland, without a doubt. That's my favorite park anywhere. Um, Ian Mortimer, is Alpine Fury your bucket list coaster in 2025? For North America at this time, I think my number one bucket list coaster next year is Starfall Racers or Stardust Racers, whatever they renamed it to. Alpine Fury is probably the number two coaster next year for 2025, but things could change as new stuff is announced. JF Myers, what will you think? What do you think will be Silver Dollar City's next new roller coaster? I'm really not sure what they'll add next. I'd love to see a big traditional hypercoaster, but we'll see what happens. Plighting Engineered, what do you think is the best themed Six Flags park or coaster? In terms of the best themed Six Flags park, it's probably Frontier City or Six Flags Great Escape. Well, they're up there. Actually, Six Flags Mexico. The theming at that one's really good. Mavericks Heartline Roll. Do you know Samson and Joe from East Coasters? I have briefly run into Samson at what was it? During one of the power hours at Six Flags Great Adventure. Only spoke for maybe 30 seconds before El Toro was dispatched. I don't believe I've run into Joe unless he was next to him. I missed him. Danny D, do you think Superman the Ride will get new trains for his 25th anniversary next year? Um, I don't know if that'll happen because the current trains, still ride well and the ride's still super popular with the public. I'm sure one day they might have to be replaced, but I don't know how imminent that is. Um, Brady, have you heard about the new 2025 coaster at Busch Gardens? Yeah, I've heard the leak is for Williamsburg to get like basically Big Bad Wolf Part 2, which will be some sort of Balls or Mabillard suspended coaster. I wish something else went in that plot, but I get the need to add another family coaster to that park. Um, Flighting engineered, do you think the merge chain will work with Intamin now the legacy Six Flags chain has done so twice? It's possible considering how Intamin's a different company now than they were, 20 years ago. Some of their new launch coasters are fairly reliable, but Cedar Fair was burned by them a few times, so they might not work with them again just because there are other manufacturers out there. Craze 6471. What is your favorite kitty small family coaster? If it counts as one, probably Rorosaurus, just because that ride has ejector airtime like an RMC. Um, but it's arguable that ride might technically be a thrill coaster because how wild it is. Jordan Lamb, how do you feel about Alpine Fury? I'm really excited for that coaster. Love how it launches out of the mountain, and it looks to have a really unique layout with some interestingly profiled inversions. Um, Michigan coasters and more. What defunct wood coaster looked the best? Um, there are a lot of old ones that I've only seen, a photo or two from, so it's hard to pick one. Um, yeah, sorry, I'm gonna pass on that one. Actually, one I'll give that just because I grew up in the area. I wish I rode the Riverside Cyclone before it was neutered because I heard amazing things about that ride. Jaden Herbert, it was raining when you went to Hershey Park. So the good thing with Hershey is they usually don't close in rain, but they will close their, Candemonium, Skyrush, and Storm Runner, which really stinks. Skyrush fanboy, worst dispatch time for a coaster you've experienced. So I'm going to exclude mechanical breakdowns or a guest delay that was inexcusable. When I say that, I mean something like, someone puking or someone getting a nosebleed, something like that that was outside the control of the staff members. Um, Worst dispatch time for a coaster. There were some really bad ones at La Feria de Chapultepec when I went there. Um, yeah, that one's up there. Another one would be Mindbender at Galaxyland. Um, just because the amount of restraints that ride had, the amount of time it took to check the restraints. Then there was one cycle where the ride operator stopped and saying happy birthday in full before sending the train off because someone's birthday was on the train. I'm glad they were being nice to them, but like they held an entire train for an extra like minute and a half to sing happy birthday when the ride had a legitimate queue line. Caleb Too Tough. Do you think Six Flags New England will ever do Holiday in the Park again? I don't think so because the weather up here is really tough in winter and it never got good attendance. I'm sorry, I lost my spot. Just trying to figure out where I was. So I know I fell way behind on the chat. I'm gonna try to get through as many of these as I can before 9 o'clock when I'm gonna sign off. So just that's the disclaimer. I don't know if I'll get to any more questions that are posted. New ones just because I'm so far behind, but I'll try my best. If there's anything I didn't answer that you want answered that I don't get to, feel free to leave me a comment and I'll try to get back to you. Sable Karstens. What happened to Holiday in the Park at Six Flags America? I never went, but I'm guessing it was relatively low attendance, which probably led to it getting axed. JF Myers, favorite coaster manufacturer. RMC or Intamin. I love both of them. WRJ 518. Do you think Indiana Beach will make any improvements to Triple Loop for 2025? I hope so, just because of how well I knew how to ride that while bracing myself. Most people didn't and came off with major neck pain. Um, Having some sort of like straps like it used to have it in Mexico would really go a long way. Um, Sorry, I lost my spot again. Trying to figure out where I was. Yoshi Wow LLL. Are you more excited for Flash at Great Adventure or Rapterra? I'm gonna go with Flash, but I both rides look to be nice additions. Jaden Herbert, you rode Comet at Hershey Park with the new trains. Unfortunately, I did ride that this year with the new trains. It isn't as good as it used to be. The new trains are rougher. There's less airtime, and the trim hits even harder now. and the airtime you do get is more restricted with those restraints. And it also takes forever to park in the station, which made the capacity even worse. Uh, Rapterra or Rakshasa? I think Rakshasa will be the better ride. Michigan coasters and more. For confirmation, Lightning Rod flies up the lift. It definitely looks faster than with the launch, but the valley after the twist and shout is super rough. I'm actually surprised that valley after the twist and shout was never made steel, considering they've touched a lot of the other parts of the ride. Watermelon, Steel Vengeance, or Millennium Force. I'm gonna go with Steel Vengeance just because of the sheer quantity of airtime. JF Myers, favorite CCI, Shivering Timbers, so much airtime. Sable Karstens, will Six Flags America RMC roar in 2025? I don't think so because if they were, it would have been closed already. TJ plays, did I ride Top Thrill 2? I did not, but I will ride it when it reopens. Probably not until next year, though. Leonardo Decapitated, out of all the RMC conversions, which have you found the most unnecessary? Um, I think I'd say Georgia Cyclone because I still thought that was a good wood coaster in its last year. But Twisted Cyclone is better, so I can understand why it was done. The Tribal Chief, favorite Playland in Vancouver ride, definitely coaster. Very wild ride. Back when I rode it without seatbelts. Coasters and airplanes. Have you watched the Mighty Ducks movies? I have, but it's been a very long time. Jared H. What do you even do that allows you to go to a bunch of theme parks? I'm an engineer and I work from home a lot. But the big thing is just when I go on a work trip, I can squeeze parks in, which is really helpful. Yoshi Wow LLL, Vekoma Boomerangs or Vekoma SLCs. I prefer SLCs if they have the vest restraints. The Tanner channel, thanks for joining and thanks for the kind words. Uh, Sneaker Beast Sneaker Convention. Uh, Thoughts on when Kings Island's next big thrill coaster will be and when? I hope it's a Mach Extreme Spinner because Cedar Fair works with Mach and I love those rides. So hopefully you get more of those in the US. JF Myers, favorite independent park in the US? Trying to think what the independent parks is. I'm gonna pull up my list really quickly. I know Holiday World is up there. I'm trying to think if there's one I'm missing. Oh, Knobles. Because I'm guessing you don't count Hershey because it's a big corporation, so I'll say Knobles. Coaster Filmer, Flying Dinosaur is better than Manta. Frank Davis, will the US get a Striker coaster? I suspect they will, I just don't know when. Um, Jaden Herbert, what will replace Wild Mouse in 2025 or 2026? Which Wild Mouse are you referring to? Coaster Visions, if you could own one park chain, what would it be? I kind of like just visiting the parks. That way I can, be flexible and, see a bunch of different parks rather than having to focus on the same one over and over again. Yoshi Wow LLL. Favorite Intamin? I think it's Conda Wallaby Belgium. Ryan reacts. Wicked Cyclone or Twisted Colossus? I prefer Twisted Colossus just because it's a much longer ride, but both are great. Uh, Halo 364. Any thoughts on the troubling trend of B&M seemingly getting rougher in recent years? It's unfortunate that's been happening because, for the longest time, their rides were super, super glass smooth. I'm not quite sure some of their new ones have had this issue. Hopefully, they can remedy whatever it is. I don't know if it's the trains, the track, the alignment. I don't know, but hopefully, they can figure it out. Maliki, what defunct coaster would you bring back? I would go with Eagles Fortress just because that suspended coaster looked absolutely amazing with the swinging and terrain use. Coasting the Planet, you want to go full time with YouTube? No, just because this is a hobby I do, and I don't want to have to, rely on this as my main source of income, and then it's a true job where you have to do something. Brian Ailes, do you think Premiere will launch new trains with the Help and Fury? I believe I heard that's the case. I know Amusement Insiders has been covering that project really well and has some interviews of the park. I believe they said new trains were coming. Yoshi Wow LOL, Wildcats Revenge or Zadra. I'm gonna go with Zadra. So I'm just gonna get like maybe 3 or 4 more, and I'm gonna sign off. It's getting towards dinner time, and uh, yeah, and my voice is starting to go. Bloop. Which Six Flags in Texas is better? Definitely Fiesta Texas is my favorite Six Flags park. Sibel Karstens, I believe I answered the holiday in the park at Six Flags America. Sorry, I typically fall behind in these comments because there's so many of them. Pumpkin Bear 111. Do you have any tips for going to Cedar Point or Kings Island? Um, if it's your first time there and you're pressed for time, I would consider Fastlane if absolutely necessary to get on everything. With Cedar Point, some of their coasters are prone to wind closures. So if you see wind in the forecast, prioritize some stuff. I believe the B&Ms at the front are the fastest to close for wind. The other one to watch out for is they sometimes will close their Intamins in heavy rain. Christopher, what coaster do you think will be coming to Six Flags New England after their 2025 coaster? I am not sure what their next coaster would be. I suspect it would be a thrill coaster, but they really need a water park edition. I mean, their last water park edition was over a decade ago, and their last two water park editions, I believe, have both been removed or standing but not operating. And all the region's water parks have added something in that time, or we've had new water parks sprout up. So, like I said, those are the last questions I could get to. Like I said, thank you for the support. Thank you for joining the live stream. If there's a question that I didn't get to, feel free to leave it in the comments and I'll get back to it. But thanks again for the support. Thanks for joining, and thanks for the continued support. And I'll keep making videos and talk about all the coasters that go on. So, thanks everyone. Have a good night.